In this video, we are going to review the toddler lesson plan. So at the top of the lesson plan is the week of. You want to indicate the date in the month, day, year format. So if it's August 25th, 2020, you're going to put 8/25/2020. You're going to write the names of the teachers inside of the classroom. So if there's one teacher, you would just write your name. If there's a co-teaching partnership, two teachers in the classroom, both teachers' names would go on here. You're going to write the room number, and then you're going to write the curriculum study as listed on the timeline. So I know that in our curriculum, we have the curriculum study, and then there's sometimes some subtopics or focus questions or investigations. You just need to write the main study that's listed on the curriculum timeline. So for example, if we're studying farm and food, you just need to write farm and food. Rest time. So in this box, you're going to detail your rest time routine for the week. How do you plan on promoting rest inside of your classroom? What are you going to do pre-rest to get kids ready for nap time? What are you going to do during rest to support children with falling asleep? Then you need to kind of think about how you're going to wake children up and how you're going to transition them from nap to whatever the next activity is. The next box is the health, safety, and nutrition activity. This can be one of the following. It can be an activity that you do with the children inside of the classroom that's related to health, safety, and nutrition. It can be activities that you send home for the family to do. So that can be a family partnership or home connection. Or it can be resources that you send home to the family. So for example, September is Better Breakfast Month. You might want to send home recipes to the families for some breakfast ideas. Or you might want to invite the families in as a home connection to have breakfast with their child. Or during breakfast time, you might want to have a discussion with the children about what they're eating and why it's good for them. So those are kind of the three different examples that you can use for that section. The next section is transition activities. So what do you plan on doing to move children from one activity to another? Is there a bell? Is there a song? Is there something special that you're going to do to support children with transition? Are you going to give them a 5 or 10 minute warning? So you really need to think about how you plan on supporting children with transition throughout the day. And those three items, rest time, health, safety, and nutrition, and transition, don't necessarily have to be theme related. I've seen teachers who do a really great job of taking the theme and really incorporating it into everything that they do throughout the day, but they don't necessarily have to be tied to the theme. Do it if you can, because I think it just embeds more of those concepts inside, it just creates more learning opportunities throughout the day and just really embeds the curriculum in every aspect of the day. But I know that there might be some things that you need to send home or have conversations with parents with, or that you're going to do for rest time that might not necessarily relate to, for example, farm and food. The next box is family partnerships. So those are activities that are going to connect the family to the curriculum. So those homeschool connections. They're going to be hands-on learning experiences that we can have the children do at home with their families, items that we might want the parent to bring in or donate. Maybe we would like a picture of that child's family to be able to put it in the cozy area. Or it can be volunteer or engagement activities. The next section on this page is the evidence of learning boards. So there are 4 boards in each classroom: cognitive, physical, language literacy, and social emotional. On those boards, you need to display what the children are doing inside of the classroom. And what you're going to do in this section is indicate the board in the classroom that you're going to be adding an item to. None of the boards should be empty. You're not going to take something down without adding something. So you're going to name which board, and then you're going to describe what you'll be adding to the board. So for toddlers, the best thing is photographs. They can't really write yet, so it doesn't make sense to kind of put writing samples. And you can display artwork, but you need to make sure it's meaningful and what the purpose behind the art is. So for example, if you have the same little penguin that looks exactly the same for your 10 children in the classroom, that's not art. That's not free art. That's not creative expression. But if you have a piece of artwork that the child drew, and maybe it kind of looks like scribbles, but the child says, "That's my dog," and you wrote dog underneath of it, Jack's dog, then you can display that inside of the classroom. That's something that the child did on their own, showed their creativity. So those are appropriate kind of art type activities. The arts and craftsy type things, save for special occasions, save for Mother's Day, things like that. Because most of the time you as the teacher are doing it, and it's not allowing the child some sort of creativity. So again, in that section, you're going to list the board and what exactly you plan on hanging. Then we get into the learning experiences. So the first box is circle time or morning meeting. Every activity starts with an objective. So objectives need to begin with CWBAT, or child will be able to. And then you're going to describe the learning goal for the activity. I highly suggest using the objectives for development and learning. They list all the objectives that are tied to the curriculum or that are expected of children in this age range. So you can use that as a guide to help you, or you can come up with something yourself. So an example could be, the child will be able to use fine motor skills to complete a task. That's your goal. You're not talking about the activity. You're not naming anything about the specific activity. It's what's the point of the activity? What do I want my students to get from this? Then in the next section, you're actually going to describe the activity. So you can describe the activity if it's something kind of that you've come up with on your own. You can list the Mighty Minute or the intentional teaching card. You can abbreviate Mighty Minute and intentional teaching card. Mighty Minute is MM, intentional teaching card is ITC, and then you would just put the number and the title of those resources. Even if you come up with your own activity, there's always a way that you can relate it back to creative curriculum. They have tons and tons of intentional teaching cards and Mighty Minutes that probably have the same activity that you've come up with on your own. So really take a look and see how you can relate it, even if it's an activity that you've come up with on your own. The next section is child initials. So you want to provide the initials of a child from your planning form, and we'll go over that in the end, that will benefit from this activity. So of course, it's physically impossible to plan for every child in your class every week, right? We want to make sure that we're individualizing with intention. If this child has an IEP or IFSP, they need to be individually planned for every week. But outside of that child, you want to start to rotate your children through a cycle of who you're supporting and why. So maybe I did an observation on Johnny last week, and I noticed that he's really struggling with grasping something, his fine motor skills. So I have a fine motor skills activity on my lesson plan. I would put Johnny's initials under that activity because I know that activity is going to really benefit him. It's not that that activity is only for Johnny. Everybody can participate. It's that I may need to support Johnny. I want to observe Johnny through the activity so I can see how he's progressing or something along those lines. Not every activity will have a child initial under it, and that's okay. Again, we want to be intentional with our lesson plan writing and how we're developing our activities based on what the children's needs are inside of the classroom. The next box is you're going to write the learning standard. So you just need to write the number. You don't need to write any of kind of the actual standards out. The next thing is classroom learning experiences. So these are going to be the activities that you are going to kind of embed in the free play. So something maybe you set up in a center or a small group. And same thing, you're going to write your objective. It's going to start with CWBAT and then have the learning goal. And then you're going to describe your activity or write out the Mighty Minute and intentional teaching card, or a combination of both. Same thing with the child initial. This may or may not be filled in depending on what your intentional activities are. And then the learning standard number. Then we have gross motor experiences for the week. So indoor gross motor, even if you don't have an indoor gym, there's something that you could do with your children inside of the classroom that's them moving their large muscles, whether that's during circle time or kind of as a transition. Maybe we're doing some fun little jumping jacks or something like that. So you would list that there, or an activity that you plan on doing in the gym, or even something you plan on bringing to the gym. So maybe I want to see my toddlers kick the ball. So yes, there's going to be free play in the gym, but I'm going to bring a ball and I'm going to encourage those children to kick the ball around, or I'm going to initiate an activity with it. So you're going to kind of outline that there. Same thing with the child initials and the learning standards. And the next is outdoor experiences. So children need to be taken outside every day, weather permitting. So it details what weather permitting is. So again, you're going to talk about what your learning goal is, your objective, and then you're going to describe the activity. So it could be, again, something you're bringing outside to encourage the children to play if they're on the playground. Or if you're taking a walk, say you don't have a safe place or close enough place to take the kids to run around and play, then maybe you can only take a walk, but you can make that walk meaningful. Maybe we're skipping as we're walking. Maybe we're talking about the trees. Maybe we are doing silly animal walks while we're walking. So you can kind of detail that information there. Again, child initials and the learning standard. The next thing is changes to the learning environment. So in this area, you're going to list how you enhance the interest areas or centers in order to be able to implement the activities listed in your lesson plan. So if I'm having an activity about grasping, maybe I want to make sure that I add more crayons or chunkier crayons or thinner crayons, depending on the child's ability, to my art area, because I know that having a variety of things that the children can grasp are going to be able to support them. So you're just going to list kind of almost like your materials, how you plan on enhancing your centers in order to meet the needs of your lesson plan activities. The next section is thoughts for the week. So you're going to reflect on your experiences inside of the classroom with the children. How are they learning and growing and developing and changing? And describe your thoughts for next week's activities. What kind of things do you want to do? What did the children enjoy? What didn't they like? And what supports do you need or does the classroom need? Is there some kind of material that you need ordered for a future lesson plan that you're thinking about? So there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's your kind of self-reflecting on what has happened in your classroom, what worked, what didn't work, what you need support in. The next section is the individual planning form. So this is taking those initials that we put on our lesson plan that we had already talked about. This is kind of where you're initially starting with that. So you're going to place the child's initials. What kind of developmental domain do they need support in? And it may be more than one. Why was this particular child chosen for this week or this lesson plan? We already talked about if they have an IEP or IFSP, they need to be planned for weekly. But is it an observation that prompted you to say, hey, I really need to work with Johnny on X, Y, and Z? Or was it an ASQ screening or an assessment? What kind of prompted you to say, okay, this child needs a little extra support or this child needs to be challenged? And what is your goal for that child? What would you like to see them accomplish? Would you like to see them grasp a crayon appropriately so that they're able to scribble? Would you like to see them hop on one foot because you notice they're having some gross motor difficulty? So what is it that you would like to see the child accomplish? And that's the toddler lesson plan. There's also in the education portal an example lesson plan that actually goes through a curriculum theme and kind of gives you an example of what each box should look like. So please make sure you access that.